Well, hi everyone, Shaun Humphries here. Welcome to All Things Retirement. In this video, we're going to talk about employer-sponsored pension plans, and specifically, we're going to talk about defined benefit pension plans. So we'll be developing a series of videos on different types of employer-sponsored pension plans, but today it'll be on the defined benefit pension plan options. Now, even if you're not part of a defined benefit pension plan, you might find some of this information helpful. But more specifically, if you know someone who's part of this kind of plan, make sure you share this video. There's some helpful content that they'll benefit from. Now, these plans, defined benefit, are definitely going the way of the dodo bird. It's not a lot of organizations that have these plans anymore. We'll talk in the video why that is. But typically the federal government, municipal governments, crown corporations, often very large employers like the railways will have defined benefit pension plans. But it is definitely dodo bird land. So fewer and fewer people have them. If you do have a defined benefit pension plan, you're definitely fortunate. These would be often considered gold-plated pension plans. So we're going to cover off the main characteristics today. Now, if you're new to our channel, make sure you hit subscribe so you don't miss future content that we're posting on a regular basis. If you go to the show notes as well, there are links back to free educational resources on different aspects of retirement planning. And finally, if you're within 5 years of retirement, if you go to the show notes, there's a link back to our website where you can find out how you can obtain a complimentary retirement snapshot to find out whether you are on track or if there's gaps in your planning. You'd rather find that out well before retirement than just on the 1 yard line. Okay, let's talk about employer-sponsored pension plans and specifically the defined benefit option. So let's just dive into some of the details around defined benefit pension plans. We already talked about that they're less common. It's very large crown corporations or employers that offer them still today, or large union organizations like in teaching, education, healthcare. And they've been falling out of favor due to a few different reasons. One is demographics and longevity. So as the population is getting older and as people live longer, that's just going to put more pressure on defined benefit pension plans that guarantee to pay out a lifetime income. Now, on top of that, market volatility has put an impact on pension plans as well. So with defined benefit pension plans, if there's not sufficient money in the plan to support the future payments, the employer is on the hook to fund the plan. So if it's underfunded, they have to make up the difference. So the combination of demographics, the fact that people are living longer, and employers don't want to take on that liability issue or question, you're seeing this movement away from defined benefit pension plans and moving more to pension plans where the employer says, listen, I'm still going to put money in the plan. That's not an issue, but we don't want to take on these liabilities. That's something that the employee should be taking on. Now, whether or not you agree with that, that's just the position that a lot of employers are taking. So typically a defined contribution pension plan would be common or group RSPs. Often 5% of your payroll goes into the plan. Your employer matches it. The money gets invested in a mix of investments that are available to you, and whatever that money grows to when you retire is what you have available when you retire to produce income. Okay, so the next issue is, what are the characteristics of a defined benefit pension plan? Well, of course, it provides a guaranteed income when you retire, and that income will continue for as long as you live, even if you live to 125. Defined benefit plans use a formula typically, and there can be a range of formulas. The most common would be a formula based on your average earnings, or it could be of your best 5 years with the employer. Sometimes there's formulas, particularly union organizations, where it's based on total hours worked in the pension plan. But it's pretty common to have an average earnings formula or best 5. Now, you want to make sure you understand with your pension plan which of these formulas are used for the calculations. So sometimes I find people think they have the best 5 years, but they don't. It might be average earnings. Well, if you look at an employee who's been with an organization for 25 years, obviously an average earnings formula is going to be driving a number for the pension plan calculation lower often than the best 5. The best 5 typically is going to be for your last 5 working years. So understanding what they're using as the average for income in the calculation is really important. Now, some defined benefit plans have a cost of living clause attached to the monthly income as well. So contractually guaranteed, what that means is often tied to the average increase in wages across the country. Sometimes it's attached to the consumer price index, the rate of inflation. So you want to make sure that you understand what is the formula that drives that cost of living increase. Other plans will have some cost of living, but it's ad hoc, meaning they'll make the increase if they think they can afford to, right? So that's different than a contractual guarantee. So your homework is, number one, what's the formula for coming up with the income that's going to be replaced? Average earnings over the life of your career with the organization, the best 5 years with the organization, or the total hours worked if it's a union contract. And then secondly, is there cost of living indexing on your pension plan when you retire? Is it contractual? If so, what's the contract? And if it's not, if it's ad hoc, what's been the historical experience with that pension plan when it comes to ad hoc increases over time? Okay, we'll cover off a few more characteristics of defined benefit pension plans that will be really important for you to be aware of. So it's not uncommon for these plans to integrate their pension plan with government benefits, old age security, Canada Pension Plan. There's a couple of ways that they do that. So one way is they will pay out the pension plan, and then let's say at age 65, the pension plan will reduce at that point with the assumption that you'll be getting Canada Pension Plan, or sometimes they'll integrate it with old age security benefits. So sometimes people think when they retire, they're going to have their pension income kick in, and then their CPP, and then their old age security, and they'll fill in the gaps with their savings, let's say, before those pensions kick in. But often that's not how the pension plans work. A good example of that would be the federal government plan, which is integrated. So what happens is you get your pension income if you retire before 65, and then when you hit 65, the superannuation will go down in value and then pay out for the rest of your life. And the plan's making the assumption that your Canada Pension Plan benefits will make up the difference for the most part. So that's one form of integration with government benefits. The other form is in the formula itself. So if I look at here in Manitoba, my wife has participated in the Teachers Retirement Fund. Their formula, I believe, is 2% times years of service times, I think, the best 5 years of your last 7 years working, something like that. But they don't pay the full 2% rate on all the income. What they say is, I believe it's 1.4% times years of service times the yearly maximum pensionable earnings for CPP contribution. So what that means is, I think I looked at the number, yearly maximum pensionable contributions right now for 2024 is $68,500. So that pension plan has a benefit rate of 1.4% on the first $68,500. Once your income's above that, then they'll pay the full 2% benefit rate. So suffice it to say, pension plans will have a formula, and you need to be aware of that as it relates to old age security CPP. Now, again, your pension plan may not do that, but it's a question to ask. The next point is many defined benefit pension plans will offer bridge payments when you retire early, so before age 65 or before age 60 as an example. And that, often sounds good, right? For some people, they go, I'd rather get the money when I'm younger and retiring earlier, because that's when I'm more active and I could use the money. You want to be very careful about these bridge payments. So more often than not, when you do the calculation, what happens is they'll front you the money to increase your cash flow, but what it does is reduce your long-term pension income. So if they front the money from 57 to 60 and 60 to 65, but then reduce your pension for the rest of your life, you need to do a calculation, how much money you're actually getting. So I compare the lump sum value of my increased income that they're going to bridge me, and I need to compare that against all the income I'm going to lose from the pension plan because they'll reduce the pension at the back end. So more often than not, when we do these calculations, the bridge payments don't make sense. The only time it really makes sense is that if you have somebody who has not saved anything for retirement, then they might take a bridge payment because they're going, listen, I want more income in the first number of years. I'm okay with less income down the road, and so I want to have that money when I'm younger and I'm more active. The next point, which is really important, is if you're married, have a partner at the time of retirement, then legislation will require you to choose a survivor benefit for that partner. There's going to be a range of options you can choose from, right from 100% survivor benefit, And essentially what that means is if I'm an annuitant, I'm getting an income, upon my death, my partner will get 100% of my pension, as an example. In most jurisdictions, the statutory requirement is that your partner receives 2/3 of your pension if you die prematurely. That's the more common number. And the only way that that doesn't happen is if you choose to give that person more benefit, or if your partner waives their right to that survivor option. Now, that's not typically going to happen. Most partners are not going to waive their right to survivorship options unless there's a strategy that makes sense. So sometimes it does make sense, particularly when there's an age gap between the person getting the pension. So the employee has, let's say, a much younger spouse, and that can have an impact on the cost of these survivor benefits. Now, sometimes it actually makes sense for the waiver to take place, the surviving spouse to waive, or the partner to waive their right to that pension, and then for the couple to buy personal life insurance that would pay out upon the annuitant's death, and that would be what would replace the pension. Now, again, that's not a common scenario that's used by people. It takes a lot of trust to do it. But if there's a good relationship and you do the number crunching and it makes sense, you sometimes see people actually waiving the rights to the pension and buying life insurance instead. And that's a whole other topic we're not going to talk about in this particular video, but it's a topic worth exploring from an information standpoint. And then be aware of actuarial penalties for taking your pension early. So when you're doing your financial planning or retirement planning, you might have an ideal date about when you want to retire and you saved a lot of money, and maybe you have a sufficient RSP, TFSA, and non-registered portfolio, maybe some retained earnings in your corporation that you can make it work. Well, just keep in mind that if you retire really early, you might be hit with an actuarial penalty from your pension plan. One calculation is the magic 80. So take your age plus your years of service, and if they total 80 or above, then you're not hit with any reductions in your pension. If you're below the 80, then you could experience some reductions in your pension income. So it's just something to be aware of. Okay, this is just an illustration of what the pension plan could look like if there's no integration with government benefits. So this is the image that a lot of people have in their minds when they take their defined benefit pension plan. So you've got this DB, defined benefit pension plan, over on the left-hand side of the screen here. So that's the white line. Let's say the person takes it in their 55th year. So that white line goes all the way across to age 85 in my example, and it's increasing slowly because there's some cost of living increases on it. You can see here at age 60, this person's decided to take their Canada Pension Plan benefits, so you see a step up in their income at that point through the rest of their life. And then you can see at age 65, the old age security benefits are kicking in. So this is a pretty common scenario with defined benefits. You see this increasing income. And so this dotted line here, this box, these boxes here, this area represents the area that you would use to supplement with your investments. So you would cash in your investments, sell investments off to make up the difference in cash flow, so the cash flow is levelized over time. So that's a non-integration example. The next example is integration with government pensions. I've talked about there's two main approaches. One, it's built into the formula, and the other approach where the pension income actually goes down over time. So again, we've got a defined benefit pension plan. There is integration of that pension plan. And so we started the pension at 55, and then at age 60, we see a bit of a reduction. So this could be because of a bridge benefit or the way the benefits are structured, and then you see a further reduction to the pension. So you can see the white line, which is the pension, is going down over time because of the integration. They're fronting the money to you in the front end, and then they're going to reduce the income paid to you over time. So the calculation should be done. If you're not doing it, you need to hire someone to take a look at the numbers for you and say, okay, how much money am I giving up by taking more income from the pension here? And there are some assumptions you have to make, right? Longevity, how long were you going to live? What I would say to you is if somebody is participating in a defined benefit pension plan that's fully indexed to inflation, this number from age 65 on that you're giving up in less pension from your pension plan at work, it could be a really, really large number over time. So do very thoughtful, careful research and analysis about whether you're going to take an integration of benefits. So typical pension formulas, usually the inputs would be a combination of years of pensionable service, and that's sometimes different than total service. So let's say you go, well, I've been working at my company for 20 years, so I've got 20 years of pensionable service. No, not necessarily. You might have 18 years because sometimes organizations will have probationary periods where you're not eligible for pensionable service right away. Average of your best 5 years employment income is pretty typical, but like I said before, you want to clarify, is it average earnings over the life of your career? Is it your best 5? What is the calculation? That's your homework. And then what's the pension factor? Is it 1%? Is it 2%? Is it 1.5%? So what are the factors used for the pension calculation? So an example would be years of service. I've got 20 years of service with my organization. The average of the 5 best salary years was $60,000 per year. The benefit rate is a 2% benefit rate, so 20 years times 2% times 60K gives me $24,000 of income from the defined benefit pension plan when I retire. Well, I hope you found that overview on defined benefit pension plans helpful. It's a bit of a primer. And in that video, of course, I cover off some really important questions you need to address when you're looking at your retirement income planning. If you have a defined benefit pension plan, is there cost of living? What's the formula that gets used? Is there a bridging option? Should you take the bridging option? Is your pension plan integrated with government benefits like Canada Pension Plan? Those are all really important questions, and that's your homework assignment. You need to get clarity on each one of those areas. Again, like I said at the beginning of the video, if you haven't subscribed, make sure you do that so you don't miss future content. Again, go to the show notes for complimentary educational resources on retirement income planning. And again, if you are within 5 years of retirement, make sure that you go back to the homepage of our website. There's a link in the show notes so you can find out how you can get a complimentary retirement income plan. Anyway, you take care. Bye-bye.